of the AFC Champions League 2020, Ulsan Hyundai.
You're listening to the K-League United podcast, proud partner of Football Nation Radio.
Hello, 안녕하세요. Ryan Walters in the Kim Do-hoon bunker. Why not? We won't drop it just yet. Anyway, after a week off, I am back, joined virtually by two gentlemen that are becoming the regular co-hosts around here. I'm joined by Peter Hampshire.
Hello, mate.
And Michael Redmond's back yet again.
Good evening, everybody.
Big Michael, we can't keep you away because Soliland is the talking point, as always, as it should be. But gentlemen, before we get into it, Pete, you were talking about this. We were all just talking about this. It just happened. The South Korean women's team just missed out on the Olympics.
Yeah, so they went into the second leg 2-1 down, and then at halftime in China in the away leg 2-0 up. And in the first half, they were battering them at the end of the first half. It was looking like they were going to make their first ever Olympics in Tokyo this year, but eventually it went to extra time, an extra 30 minutes, and the Korean side, they looked really leggy in extra time, and there was a lot of time wasting. There was a big crowd in there as well. There was a big atmosphere. And yeah, they ended up losing 4-3 on aggregate.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, I just think that I personally am not supposed to watch Olympic football because the U.S. men, apparently we just don't want to qualify for it anymore. The Olympics, who cares? Let Honduras go. Let them have their day. So now without the South Korean women there, I guess I only just have a bunch of K-League players to watch in it. But anyway, Michael, let's move on to positive things here. We were talking about this before we came on. You still have 3 lives in Survivor.
Yeah. And I haven't even picked Soliland yet.
Why you have 3 lives?
Well, to be honest, yeah, that is the truth. I was going to say everyone was happy at the start of the weekend. I wasn't at 6 p.m. last Saturday. I'll tell you that one for free. But my first big boy was chosen on the weekend there. I picked John Buck to win. But no, I'm still intact with 3 lives. But now it's getting more stressful because normally you lose 1 life and you lose the next 2 2 weeks after. So it just goes like a snowball. But so far, so good.
Ulsan's the only one that's taken me down this year, and it feels very appropriate that Ulsan would disappoint me just because par for the course for the previous years. But anyway, we will be talking about Ulsan Hyundai, Jumbo Hyundai Motors, all of them in K-League 1 and in K-League 2 because we're going to recap the weekend that was after a week off last week because the midweek games just will not stop this year. So instead of going live and trying to compete with K-League football, we took last week off. And we're just barely missing that window this week because the FA Cup, it's back tomorrow night. And if you're watching live, as Michael and my attire might allude to, the first ever Seoul Derby is happening tomorrow night at Seoul World Cup Stadium. Michael, where are you emotionally with this?
I have about 50,000 emotions going through my head at the moment. For those who don't know, they normally draw the whole FA Cup from the first round to the final, don't they, normally? And that was back in, was it January or something? Or mid-February when they drew. And I saw that penciled in straight away. Okay, if we beat this team, we're going straight against FC Seoul. I've been nervous ever since. And now that we will be, in 24 hours' time, we will be halfway through this first half. And I can feel myself already being an emotional wreck.
Well, we Matthew and I will be there to do the post game. You're more than welcome, obviously, depending on the state of things. Good or bad, who knows? I mean, we might just see a shirtless incident once again. We did see one of those over the weekend, and we will get into that. But we might see a shirtless incident tomorrow night. Am I right there, Michael?
Well, my girlfriend's cool with me, so probably not, unfortunately. She'll probably scream me out the stadium. There'll be tears, win or lose, from me tomorrow. I'll probably at least promise you that one.
There you go. And it might... Actually, I don't even know is it going to be available on YouTube? I should know that before we go live. But anyway.
It is available on Sky Sports, I'm aware. I double-checked it. So in Korea, that is. I double-checked it just before I came on, but I should be on YouTube as well. I'm not sure, though.
Okay. All right, yeah, we've got all that. And then we also have, for those of you watching live, we have this yellow Onsan Greeners kit from their inaugural season that we will be giving away as part of K-League United's Twitter reaching 5,000 followers. So thank you so much for getting us up to 5,000 followers there And mainly greetings to our Indonesian and So Rare fans that got us over that mark. So, hey, hi, how are you? All right. Anyway, gentlemen, enough from me for now. Let's get into the weekend that was. Let's start with K-League 1. And it was round 9. And we're really starting to get into the meat of this. We're starting to see which teams are going to be title contenders. Shock, there are 2. And which teams are going to be fighting for mid-table. And I think that is where it gets a little bit surprising. Just to go through the weekend that was real quick, and then we will each pick a match, starting with Peter to discuss. Gangwon FC, y'all were ready to call them dead. 3-0 over Daegu FC. That's AFC Champions League contending Daegu FC. Technically, we'll talk about that one. Anyway, 3-0. FC Seoul lost at home 2-1 to Pohang Steelers. Songnam FC had a very, very memorable night out with we'll talk about that one. That one finished 2-0. We'll talk about that. On Sunday, JG United beat Suwon Samsung Blue Wings 2-1. That was an entertaining match there. Suwon FC fell to a 10-man Ulsan Hyundai 1-0, and Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors went and did Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors things and won 5-0 over Incheon United. The last time they won 5-0 in the league, don't remember who it was against. Doesn't matter. Take that, Bins. Anyway, Pete, let's get started with you. Which of those matches drew your attention?
Yeah, that leads nicely into me because I chose the match that I went to at Jeonbuk. 5-0 against Incheon, and it's the first time they've scored 5 in K-League, as you just mentioned, since 2016 against Jeonnam Dragons. And also their biggest winning margin since 2018 against Kishi. So, Jeonbuk, for all the dominance, they don't dish out too many hammerings, and it was the best performance I've seen. It sounds quite obvious to say a 5-0 was the best performance, but Jeonbuk have been scraping wins this season without really particularly impressing. And the first time they've really turned it on, Lee Seung-gi reached 50 goals and 50 assists, which is a nice milestone. And alongside Han Kyo-won, those two really tore through Incheon, who, when they conceded the first, it was quite even until then. And then Incheon just fell apart. And with Kunimoto coming back from injury, Peg Sung-ho making his debut, it just seems like everything's coming together for Kim Sham-sik at the minute.
I mean, I think that was the thing for me in this one, was just watching Jeonbuk already controlling the game and then bringing on Pek Sung-ho and Kunimoto for the first time this season off of the bench. Like, they're already in pole position. They're already leading the league. They're already starting to find form. And then that's who they've got to bring off the bench right now. I mean, please, Ulsan, please do something.
And I know Bins has been saying in the Saturdays about the amount of shots Jeonbuk have been having. They've been averaging 10 this season. They put 17 in. They also pumped the ball up a bit longer. Change of tactic. It was the longest average pass length since August last season. So maybe they've decided, stuff it, let's go a bit more gung-ho and get it up to Ilyachenko up front and feed off him. But from an Incheon point of view, though, Kim Hyun, I think, struggled up front. They really need Magosa back, don't they?
Yes. Yeah. And how? So, I mean, look, Incheon, they're doing all right. They'll be okay. You'll be okay, Incheon. They're not bottom of the table right now. They're 1 point off of it. So they'll be okay. Everything's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. All right, Michael, let's move on. What I think you chose wisely here. What's the match that you've got from the weekend that was?
Well, I went for the Songnam vs Gwangju game, which is probably more memorable for a certain incident that happened in it than the actual result. Let's get into that. First of all, Songnam, they won the game 2-0. In doing so, they put themselves in third position, which is quite exceptional for them so far. When they were promoted the season before last, they did really well to hang in there. And now they just like to reinforce themselves, and they're playing excellent football. I think they've only lost 2 games this season, and they've conceded 3 goals or 4 goals. Let me just double check that. They've conceded 4 goals so far this season, which is quite good in 9 rounds.
Yeah.
Of K-League 1 football.
That goalkeeper they got.
Kim Young-kwan, he's having a renaissance as such, isn't he? So he's doing brilliant. So for them, he's played every minute for them behind in the sticks. Getting into the game, the powerhouse up front of Mulic is just exceptional. The way that he scores a goal, he just overpowers the defender and just runs at the goalkeeper and takes a shot. Both goals were the same, almost identical on the weekend, where he was literally just charged down against the goalkeeper, and the goalkeeper's standing here like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? both times, he scores. First one, okay, no problem at all. Then gets a booking for a challenge. Second goal, scores an amazing goal.
That was a great goal.
Amazing goal, worthy of taking your shirt off, which he did. And he was already on a booking.
Sure was.
And you should have. It was like the moment he took his shirt off, you could see his reaction going, oh, "What have I just done?" Because he realised straight away what he did, and even the referee was all smiles, giving him his marching orders. But it was quite a scene to be saw. To be fair, looking back at that, I've seen it a few times now. Like, oh, he's got to be sat in the change room now, going, "Why did I do that?"
I think, well, on Twitter anyway, that one proved more popular than Cho Jae-won's spinning back heel from the opening weekend of last year. So we know what the internet likes. But yeah, like you can tell the moment that he realizes it, because he scores and, like you say, it's a great goal, rips his shirt off and is about to celebrate. And as the arms go out, oh, and then just head down. The poor man. And now he's going to miss a couple of games for Songnam. So, I mean, that's really unfortunate for them. And I mean, it's one of those things where, like, look, to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of that being an automatic yellow.
Well, I'm definitely not, because I do it every weekend.
Yeah, luckily in our five-a-side games, they don't card you for that. But yeah, that was an entertaining one. Like you say, I think Songnam and Mulich are definitely like the surprise package of K-League 1 so far, up into third, and all of 5 points off of Ulsan in second. So, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and call him a title challenger. I'm not going to do that just yet, but I think that they're looking pretty good so far. Moving on a little bit here, I think my microphone's making some issues. So, Michael, just talk about how much you love Songnam real quick.
Well, what I was going to say about Songnam, actually, their first real test now comes next week when they face Jeonbuk in round 10. And the simple fact that Mulichi actually can't even play in that game, it will show their character if they can get anything in that game at all. And it's a simple fact that it is actually going to be in Jeonju as well. So, you know, if Songnam want to be ACL contenders, which they're playing like ACL contenders at the moment, go out there and do something down in Jeonju.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a tournament that they've got a lot of history in. It would be nice to see them back in that. Yeah, that's a really good point. Let's see what they can do against a much bigger team than poor old Gwangju. But we did have a comment come in, by the way, before I get to my K-League 1 match, that Busan start is concerning this season, from Kevin Langdon on Facebook there. We'll get to that in the K2 segment, though. Just one last thing. In K-League 1, it is the kit that I'm wearing today, partially just to troll Michael, but also because this is my Cheho Jin FC Seoul kit. It's a long sleeve from the 2010 season. I love this kit. It's my favorite. Anyway, they lost. They lost one. They had one goal and Pohang had two. They lost 2-1. And I think this was really indicative of where FC Seoul is this year. And I mean, look, they still just don't have a striker. They just need an out and out striker. Na Sang-ho is fantastic, but he needs somebody to play off of. That someone is not Park Ju-young. It hasn't been Park Ju-young. Ever since this team decided to go with Park Ju-young instead of Dejan Damjanovic, this has been the FC Seoul that we've seen. And we saw that again this weekend. The midfield can pull them out of a lot of games and do a lot of things with Ki Sung-young, with Pulasevic, but they can't do it all without somebody up top. And I think that's where we saw things go wrong here. Also, defensively in this one, I have no idea why Yoo Sung-hoon is getting the start over Young Han Bin. It just doesn't make sense to me. Just keep with the steady hand in Young Han Bin. Maybe give Yoo Sung-hoon the start in the FA Cup, which, I mean, maybe that's not the best idea considering form going into this one, but questionable. And then he ends up making an error on a corner kick, and that's what leads to the first goal for Pohang. Song Min-kyu getting a goal on his first game back after suspension in a very, very typical fashion for him. He's continuing to look fantastic. From a Seoul side of things, I thought Ko Kwang-min had a pretty rough match. I think the cracks in the defense are starting to show a little bit for FC Seoul. He gave the ball away a lot, missed a lot of passes, and just actually flat out kicked it out of bounds a couple of times trying to go for a pass. Anyway, the positive for FC Seoul was Kim Jin-sung, who scored his first ever professional goal, and the picture of him celebrating is just pure joy, pure delight. So it was lovely to see that. And that's like the only positive for FC Seoul right now. Pohang, however, a much, much needed win for them. Their first win since round 2. And I mean, Song Min Kyu is just the difference maker for them. Pete, I know how much you love watching him play, and they're just a completely different side with him in there.
Yeah, it's mad how many teams in the K1 depend on their youngsters. I mean, we had a lot of talk about it with the substitutions, but Gwangju and Pohang, particularly, without their youngsters, they look a different outfit, and they on the wings provide all the creativity.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how they do going forward. And man, I know we're saving it for the third segment, but I'm real curious how things are going to play out tomorrow night, considering the form of both of these sides. But we'll get into that in just a second, because we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back and talk about K-League 2. We'll be right back.
FNR is a revolutionary football-dedicated digital platform, the first of its kind in Australia. It provides a 24/7 live online radio platform experience, podcast hub, and acts as a content provider for TV, radio, and digital. Having reached millions of listeners and football fans since launching, FNR is accessible worldwide via its website or app, providing a platform to discuss, debate, and celebrate the world game. We are your voice of football, FNR Football Nation Radio.
Welcome back to the K-League United podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Walters, and I am joined by Pete Hampshire.
Hello, gentlemen.
And because we're talking K-League 2, it's Michael Redmond.
Good evening, everybody.
And Michael, let's go ahead. Let's start with you for this one. K-League 2, this is where the party is. The party that we all want to leave, kind of, but we don't, you know?
Yeah.
At least you and I can't leave anyway. But
Well,
the weekend that was to do the same thing that we did for K1. Let's go through the results here. I do have to start with Seoul Derby getting their first loss of the season to Cheongnam Asan. Lots to talk about in that one, which I'm sure you're going to get into shortly. Gimcheon Sangmu continue their resurgence. They got a 1-0 win over Bucheon 1995. The Ansan Greeners fell to the mighty Jeonnam Dragons, who played like absolute garbage for 90 minutes and then got a goal. I'll talk about that one shortly. I was there in person for that one. Finally made my way down to the Wa. FC Anyang, they got another win. They got a 2-1 win over Busan I Park at home. And then Daejeon Hana Citizen, they got a 2-1 win over Gyeongnam FC. So, gentlemen, let's get started. Michael, what you got?
Well, in my notes, I put Seoul Derby 0, 1 for 11 men behind the ball FC. But I'll digress. I always have a horrible feeling when I play Cheongnam Asan. Back when they were Asan Magongwa, I think we've won 2 games on the last 12 against them. I didn't feel confident going into the game. They were a team that had been playing better than people expected. But during that game, it was like watching Seoul Derby try and kick a ball against a wall. Countless times throughout the game, you just saw 11 men behind the ball. Seoul Derby would be in their half, and they'd have 11 men behind their ball, in their half. Now, that was the first half. In the second half, I will give Asan credit. They did come back a little bit more. They had a few more chances on goal. But Elan looked a bit tired. Elan looked like they just couldn't click as they were doing in the previous rounds. And I was looking at the fans in the stadium, talking to them throughout, going, this team don't look like the same team that we saw against Busan, so that we saw against Gimcheon, that we saw against Bucheon. There was something missing. There was a spark missing that Elan haven't yet shown yet. They haven't shown this kind of like, we look a bit dragged this week. Shot after shot after shot, nothing was happening. And then a total lapse of concentration in the 91st and a half minute. Up pops Asan, 1-0, Kim In-gyun, tears and Jamshul. Yeah,
I mean, Cheongnam Asan all of a sudden are up into 3rd in the league, 3 wins in their previous 4. That's where 9 of their 10 points have come from there. They look a very stubborn side. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that's why they're up there. And I mean, you know, we don't want anybody going wire to wire in K2. That's not how things are fun. And I think Elan just wanted to give FC Seoul some hope before the Seoul Derby this week. I think that's what it was. It was mind games, right?
Well, to be honest, my worry is, as I said previously, they look tired. So hopefully they had their mind set on the derby, because I kind of thought to myself, all the fans here in the stadium were talking about the derby. And I was like, we've got a game here today, boys. So I'm kind of a bit like, or maybe the players are thinking the same thing as us.
Sure.
Because obviously it's such a great event happening tomorrow that maybe they were sidetracked slightly.
Yeah, very possible, and maybe that's the wake-up call that they needed going into Wednesday night. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I think to me it does say at least as much about Asan as it does about Eland in that way, that I think Asan have kind of emerged as a team that's going to be very difficult to beat. And I think that's what it was, like you say, for 90 minutes. And then they just kind of popped up there with a goal. So we'll see. Pete, what's the K2 game that you're going to focus on here?
I chose the side that replaced them at the top. That's Daejeon Hana Citizen, who beat Gyeongnam 2-1. It was their first home win of the season, despite going top. And Matthias Pato, who returned after a spell in 2019, he got the winner. Another side who are playing a K1 team tomorrow. Daejeon have got Suwon Blue Wings in the FA Cup on Wednesday night. And yeah, coming up next, Daejeon have got 3 out of the next 4 at home, so perhaps it's the perfect time for them to go on a run. Adinio always looks good for them. And yeah, playing Gyeongnam, who were down in 10th. No one, I predicted them to win the league in pre-season. Perhaps looking at the stats for them, that shows my K2 knowledge is on fire. They've got the oldest squad in the league, Gyeongnam, by a 2-year gap. They've got the most possession in K2 this season as well, but they're clearly not doing much with it. 9th for interceptions, most yellow cards. So to me, that says it's just a lot of golden oldies running around the pitch, not getting near enough to the ball. Yeah, because when last week when I wrote that K2 preview and you read it out for me, I was looking at the squad and I was saying there's a lot of old players, and there really is. There's a lot of 33-year-olds. I know Hwang Il-soo scored for them last weekend, but yeah.
We don't need to say really old and 33 in the same sentence, by the way, Pete. I know we're talking about footballers, but come on.
I'm clinging on to my 20s.
Come on,
I'm pretending I'm still 29.
I'm sitting right here. I mean, look, as far as preseason predictions go, there's no real point in even doing them for K-League 2. I mean, this guy said that Gimcheon might not even lose a game. They've lost 2 already in 6 rounds. So you never know. But yeah, Gyeongnam, don't know what's going on with them. Luckily, there's no relegation from K-League 2, so they should be all right there. But yeah, Daejeon, I think last year was the year that we all had those expectations on Daejeon, and maybe that's playing into their benefit this year because the squad is still pretty strong. Ali Bayev is set to start playing for them soon as well, so they're going to get even stronger. So it'd be really interesting to see what they can do and how well they can perform this season with honestly, I think a little bit less pressure on them than there was last year, oddly enough, even though you'd think there'd be more because they still want that promotion, but not with the teams around them this year. Surprise, surprise, my match of the round was Ansan Greeners 0, Jeonnam Dragons 1. Finally got to see Aznawi Menkulan play in person for the first time. And look, I was always going to be hyped about an ASEAN player finally making their way to K-League, and I've always wanted it to be in K-League too. But look, this kid is for real. It was an absolute delight to watch him play. Shin Tae-young was there, the Indonesian national team manager, so I think that might have had something to do with how well he played. I think Ansan fans will hope that Shin Tae-young is at every single match after the way Aznawi played in this one, but he started as an out-and-out wingback, and I personally liked him a little bit better there. I think he's really good defensively. He was nullifying Samuel the entire first 30 minutes before he made the switch, before Aznawi made the switch to move a little bit further up the park, but really, really good on the overlap as well. And I think a lot of times with modern wingbacks, you don't necessarily get the defensive side of things as much, which is where you want your 3 center backs to kind of come in there, but it's not really as much of an issue with him. And I just was really impressed with his work rate, gets up and down the pitch. He did well as an out-and-out winger, but I like him better coming from the back because I think it allows him to kind of sneak in a little bit more. And to be honest, I think the biggest issue is that his teammates need to pass to him when he's open because he's getting into good positions and not necessarily being found. And I mean, to me, that was his biggest strength. Is his off-the-ball movement is just fantastic. It's intentional every single time. He's either finding space or creating it for somebody else. It was really delightful to watch him play. And then he got subbed off and my Dragons won the game. So it was a gorgeous Saturday afternoon with the sun shining on my back.
It looked like you were enjoying those press tables as well, with your arms stretched out into the next row.
So yeah, that was a very interesting press end. They've built the tables, so they just built the tables on top of the seats in front of you, which is common here in Korea because a lot of the stadiums are too big. We'll never fill them. But a lot of the tables come back. These are just flat to the chair backs in front of you. So in order to be able to reach my computer, I had to be on the edge of my seat, like leaning forward. So I think it's so they can say that when you go to Ansan, you'll be on the edge of your seat for 90 minutes. Or you won't be able to type anything. So
Mate, it's the same at Gwangju in the press end. There's the girl I sat next to last time. She brought 2 cushions because the seats are so low. She's like balancing on top of cushions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I felt kind of bad because I was either like really, really leaned forward, all hunched over, or when I was doing things on the phone, I'm just like sitting back with my feet up on the seats in front of me, looking completely casual. Interestingly enough, as Shin Tae-young walked by, I was like, "Oh, hey, sir, yes, okay, fine." Anyway, yeah, that was the interesting part. No, the interesting part was that the Dragons came back and won this with the last kick of the game. Alex got that one, and look, Jeonnam stole this one. I did not think they didn't look very good in this match. They were slow. They were just slow. They did well to turn things around and to try to get the counter going, but every time they did, it was just so lethargic in the buildup, and I think that's been their biggest problem this year, and it certainly was this time. But look, if you want to be in the playoffs, if you want to challenge for K1, you got to win ugly, and that's what the Dragons did over the weekend. So good on them. They won ugly in the match, and they won ugly by wearing those all white kits again, which I'm fine with them at this point, but whatever. Anyway, before we get out of here, we did have a question come in about Busan, so I don't want to leave that one behind. We'll dip into the mailbag here a little bit early. And as I said, Busan, they did lose again over the weekend. It was their 3rd loss in 6 matches. This time it was to FC Anyang. We do have a question in the mailbag about the A teams, as we like to refer to them, Anyang, Asan, and Ansan. But FC Anyang, they came back from a goal down, and they won this one 2-1. Pete, do you think that says more about Anyang or Busan?
Anyang, yeah, they took my one survivor live that I've lost this season. So I'm slightly bitter towards them, but they've got Meng Seng-ung. You know, I always talk about him. He's the highest interception maker in K-League 2. He's underrated, I think, and I'm sure he's only 22 or 23 years old. Baek Dong-kyu back this season, and Nilsson Jr. is always a good player to have in K-League 2. But so yeah, I know on a Busan point of view, those youngsters, I think they just need time to settle in. The ones they got from Ulsan. Jong-in looks good, and Drozdek on the wing. Apparently he's putting in some good performances. I think given time, it will turn around at Busan.
Michael, how concerned are you for Busan's start to the season?
Well, I love it personally.
I don't mean personally.
Yeah. I have said this. I think they got relegated last year, and they needed a big off season to really bounce back, really. And I don't think I think they got rid of too many people in the off window, too many players, and I don't think they're the same team they were last year or even the season before last when they were pushing for promotion in the K-League 2. I think they're going to have a lot more shock defeats this season, to be honest. We beat them 3-0 in the first game of the season. I have to get that one out. But apart from that, other teams have beaten them 4-0 Asan, 2-1 Anyang. Teams are going to Busan and fancying the chances against them. So Busan don't look like the dominant forces you think they would be as a newly relegated side. Yeah.
Well, hopefully the goals keep coming in when I make the trip down here to watch the Dragons play at the Gudok, because it's a summer treat. But yeah, I'm with both of you in this regard. I think that Busan, they need more time because it was a complete overhaul. It was just a massive, massive change. And I think their thing lately has just been tying everything to one striker. It was 25 when they came up last year, and that was never going to work, and it didn't. And this year they've tied their mast to An Byung-jun, who was fantastic last year, but I think asking him to replicate a 20-goal season is a bit much. I thought he would have been a good fit for Gangwon when that looked like that was going to happen, but he wouldn't have been asked to do everything there. And I don't know if he is with Busan, but again, I think they just need a little bit more time. So we'll see how things go. I think it's easy to forget that K2 isn't nearly as far along as K1 is because they haven't been playing the midweek games. So it's only 6 rounds for K2, so plenty of time for them to turn things around. So we'll see. But we'll talk about them and all the other K-League 2 teams that are involved in the FA Cup, including one very, very big Seoul Derby, right after a quick break.
Fans, we want to hear from you. You're encouraged to email KLU at info@kleagueunited.com or tweet at KLeagueUnited with any questions, comments or reactions. Or follow us on Facebook to ask directly during one of our live shows.
Welcome back to the K-League United podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Walters, joined by Michael Redmond and Peter Hampshire. And gentlemen, this is the meat of the show this week. We know this. It's all about the FA Cup this week because it's happening tomorrow night, which is why we had to come on tonight. And there are too many matches for me to rattle them all off here live now. It wouldn't be very pleasant for the podcast listeners either. So you can check all that out on kleague.com. We've got an FA Cup preview up there right now. And Michael, we can't bury this any longer. We're a half hour in. Let's talk about the first ever Seoul Derby. It's happening tomorrow night, 7:30, Seoul World Cup Stadium. It's going down.
It is going down in Seoul Town. It is going down. If you can see behind me, Seoul Eland have produced a poster for it, and they're the away team. They're not even involved in any of the marketing or strategy this year at this game, but they're still putting a load of marketing things out, a lot of events for the Seoul Eland fans. It's incredible for Seoul Eland fans this day. Tomorrow is the founding day of Seoul Eland, 2014. They became a team in 2015. So this is actually very big for Day, personally, as a Seoul Eland fan and as the team. They've wanted this. They've wanted this more than anything else. They've wanted to prove that they're a team, they're an identity in Seoul. And tomorrow they can go not only to Jamshul, but they're going to the Seoul World Cup Stadium to doing it. They're doing it away from home. They have to go there and prove their worth. And if they got something from it, Seoul will be painted blue that evening.
So, look, I mean, again, we've seen Seoul, FC Seoul. We can't even just say Seoul in this. We've seen FC Seoul. I feel like I'm writing a very official preview where I have to say Seoul Eland and FC Seoul. Anyway, we've seen the red half of Seoul. We've seen FC Seoul really struggle at times this year to find the back of the net. And we've seen Seoul Eland just absolutely tear teams apart. So, I mean, the potential is there in this one. I mean, I think going into this, I think Eland is definitely going to hold their own. I think that's the expectation. But who are you looking at? Who do you think are going to be the key players in this one that would get them over the line, that would get them to pull off the upset?
Obviously, you look at our three foreigners, Babio, Benegas, and Leandro. You know how highly I rate Leandro. I say it every single week I'm on the podcast. But if you look at midfield and you look at Kim Sun Min for Seoul Eland, the amount of passion he has for playing for that shirt in such a short space of time, the way he attacks and charges balls every single time he's on the pitch, he gives the same amount of energy in the first minute as he does in the 90th minute. He's even come out this week and like, Seoul, Ki Sun-young, we're coming for you. So he's taken this very personally himself. So I think, obviously, I did state this. We had a writers' chat last week about the derby itself, and we spoke about will full teams be played, because normally K1 team against the K2 team, midweek fixture, they might not do that. I think both teams are going to go out all guns blazing tomorrow. And if you have the likes of Benegas, Leandro, Babio midfield with Kim Sun Min, and then you have Wang Tae-hun as well on the wings, I think FC Seoul could be in for a long evening if they're not prepared for this Seoul Eland side.
Well, especially considering the defensive performance that we just saw them put in against Pohang over the weekend. And that's where I think, honestly, the Pohang loss could be a bit of a detriment to Eland in this one, because I think it was a wake-up call one match earlier than the Leopards would have preferred, because they were just exposed. Seoul was exposed a lot defensively. Set pieces, again and again, set pieces continue to burn this team. And so I think that's another opportunity, especially with the players that you were just mentioning. They're very familiar at getting into the positions to draw fouls where it's going to be very dangerous against that FC Seoul defense. And FC Seoul has showed time and again that they will concede in those instances. But the key is going to be, no pun intended there, the key is going to be, can Eland defend against that midfield for FC Seoul? I don't know if Ki Sung-young's going to be in this one. He's got an injury knock, but if not, then yeah, all you've got is Palacevic, Han Chan-hee, Kim Chin-ya. I mean, like, you pick anybody from FC Seoul's midfield, and I think that's where they're going to be looking to win this battle. That's where they look to win all of their battles. But I think that's going to be a different caliber of midfield battle than any K2 team is going to be used to, but that certainly that Seoul Eland would be used to trying to fight. So to me, that's where the game can be won for FC Seoul. And we'll just have to see if Na Sang-ho can pull out a moment of magic. And like you said, Michael, I think a lot of this is really going to come down to that lineup card. The lineup card for both of these is massive. And if FC Seoul thinks that they can sleep on this in any way, I think it will come back to bite them.
Well, that's it as well. And to be honest, with Seoul Eland, they, going back to your point saying that it was wake-up call for FC Seoul, Seoul Eland had a wake-up call as well, because they lost bitterly. They would have felt like they were robbed on Saturday afternoon. And you should have seen the expression in the players' face after the game. They looked at each other like, how did we let this happen? Rather than being deflated or like, right, we need to sort this out now. So maybe they're going to go out there trying to prove a point now that that was a one-off, fans. Please don't think that that's us this season, that we're going to keep slipping up. Going to where you said the midfield is where FC Seoul could win this game. Eland's defence has been exceptional this year. They've conceded only 2 goals. Unfortunately, one caused to a loss, but their defence, Ian Jae, Lee Sang-min, it's been fantastic so far this season. Kim Kyung-min has really come in and stepped up as the new number 1 in the side. People have had shots. Teams have come here and had shots against Eland. Gyeongnam, when we played them, they had a few shots. Bucheon had one fantastic chance during the game, and they just couldn't get past Eland. Their defense is superb. Now, if you're saying FC Seoul can win it in midfield, in them spells in the game where it's all FC Seoul, hopefully the Leopards can hold true with their defense.
Yeah, and because we're both going to be there tomorrow night, I just want an early goal. I don't care who scores it. I don't want this thing 0-0 going late. We don't need, luckily, there's a charging station where I'll be. So if it goes to pens, then we won't have a Pete Hampshire moment where my phone dies as the last penalty is being kicked. But Pete, this is the magic for you. This is your tournament. This is where you take midnight Mugunghwa trains. And for those that aren't here in Korea and don't know what the Mugunghwa train is, imagine you're traveling in 1968 and that's the train that you're on. Look, we've got some great trains here in Korea. The KTX is amazing, but they still run the ones from the late 60s. And that's what Pete prefers to travel on. But anyway.
Yeah, at work today, they were talking about this new train that's supposed to be going from Seoul to Busan in 10 minutes in a few years' time. And I was just thinking back to all the Mugunghwas I've been on and just thinking which would I prefer. And to be honest, there's the romance of the Mugunghwa. When you're going on an away day, you can settle in and you can listen to the unique sound of the Mugunghwa and get ready for the match.
You can get a partial massage as you're just rocked and rolled back and forth in a wooden chair. No, the chairs aren't wood. They're not that old.
Some of them do have karaoke rooms on though, if people aren't aware. Genuinely.
Look, you've got enough time.
Yeah, there's karaoke rooms on some of them, which if there's no seats available, you can pay for 5 songs and you got a free seat, kind of.
That is amazing. Now, obviously, you both know I go to a lot of away games of Eland, and this year I've actually got like a bit of a tick list, like what different modes of transportation. I've never been on a Mugunghwa.
You are missing nothing.
I think I need to put it into the season tasks. Go to an Eland game in a Mugunghwa.
I was on one last night on the way back from the dentist with an ice pack on my face, and the double pain of the dentist and the rocking of the Mugunghwa was just perfect.
All right. I'm going to cut it off there before we're going to Pete, talk about the FA Cup. Which match are you looking forward to tomorrow night?
I've chosen a transport team, Busan Transport Corporation, which is a team that followed a lot when I used to live in Busan. I followed them more than iPark just because of the large amount of foreign supporters that the transport have, and it's free entry, and I'm a Yorkshireman. So tomorrow night they've got Gwangju at home, which is obviously the team I write about for K-League United. The Busan Transport play at the Gudok, the same stadium as iPark. They had years of struggling in the National League before it changed to the K3, and this last season they did really well, finished just outside or just in the playoffs, I can't remember. And this season they're unbeaten after 3 games. They've won 1 and drawn 2. They won 3-0 in the last round at Chuncheon, and it's a lot different Busan Transport side to the one that lost to Jeonbuk in the FA Cup a few years ago. And yeah, obviously Gwangju, they finally got those home wins in the new stadium, but they look a different outfit on the road, and it'll be interesting to see what side Kim Oh-young puts out.
So I do need you to be honest with me here. Was that all just a really long preamble to talk about Busan Transport?
No, genuinely.
Okay. I definitely believe you. All right. I will be brief then with mine here, which is Gyeongnam FC, who we've already talked about, and their struggles this season. They're going up against Mokpo City. Mokpo City is a team that has a pretty good history in this tournament. They've done very well in recent years. They went out to Daegu recently. That's how far they made it into this tournament. They've also won 5 of their previous 7 games coming into this. Those have been some narrow wins for them, mainly 1-goal margins, but that is very different than the form that Gyeongnam FC are in right now, which is not good, as we've talked about. And combine that with the fact that, like you were saying, Pete, that Gyeongnam's an older team. I don't think they really care about the FA Cup this year. I think the focus is K-League 2. You combine all that, and I think that this could be a cup set. I think this one, of the ones in the cards, that's why I picked this one. I think this one looks the most likely for a cup set. Busan Transport against Gwangju, maybe, but any of the lower league sides making their way through. Gimhae City is at home against Bucheon. I could see Gimhae getting through in that one. But other than that, I don't see the lower league side necessarily pulling their way through here in this one, but they all kick off tomorrow night at 7, except the Seoul Derby, which will be at 7:30. And as Michael said, the preview for that is on KLeagueUnited.com. Michael combined with Simon Farnsworth for our first writers chat, I think this year, certainly our first writers chat in a long time, because that's the only way to do that. You have to split it half and half for the Derby. And yeah, well, we'll be there. We'll be covering it live tomorrow night. So if you have any questions, comments, or reactions for that, you can get them in now, or you can save them for tomorrow night. But speaking of questions, comments, and reactions, we're going to take a really quick break, and then we're going to hop into the OG Luis mailbag. We'll be right back.
OG Lewis is your neighborhood British bar and cafe located in the Old Giro district of Seoul. Decorated in old English antiques and furniture for a true homely feel, you can enjoy homemade scones, cakes and afternoon tea during the day, and traditional British favourites like beef stew, English ale, and a fine selection of wines at night. Available for private parties or simply an evening out, OG Lewis is sure to become your favourite neighbourhood pub. Be sure to mention K-League United at the bar during your visit and you'll get 10% off your bill.
Welcome back to the K-League United podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Walters, and no breaks this week, no different guests, no shuffling, no interviews. I'm joined once again by Pete Hampshire and Michael Redmond, and sans Matthew Binns again. I will be hopping into the mailbag, into the OG Luis mailbag, and hosting this week again. And we begin this week not with a question from the 94th minute, although I did see that Clint is watching on YouTube and had some very disparaging comments against Seoul Elam.
He's drawn battle lines there this evening now. I'm reading that comment now. He's drawn battle lines there, Clint. Just, yeah, be careful.
Seoul Elam cost Clint and many other people a life in Survivor over the weekend, because the trick is to pick a team that just won't lose, and it's more difficult than it sounds. But anyway, we'll talk about that when we get to the Patreon bit at the end. Let's get started with a question from Chris Edwards. He said, when was the last time any of the cast went to a K3 or K4 match? And which team would you choose to go see? So, Michael, I believe you just went to a third division game recently?
I did. On Sunday, I took a walk down to my local team. I went to watch Seoul No One United play.
Nice.
They Yeah, they lost 1-0, unfortunately. They had a few chances. It was quite a good game. I quite enjoyed it. At the moment, because of the restrictions as such, Seoul No One, they actually play in a park, which is like corner. I'm making it sound terrible, worse than it is. They've got a proper full-size pitch and a stand, but you can just stand around the side of it and just watch the game. And I normally always try and get down there and watch a couple of games myself when Eland aren't playing. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it. Nice sunny day. They didn't win, which is unfortunate, but it was a good day out. I highly suggest going to K3, K4 games whenever you can. Really would.
Look, when Ulsan Hyundai Mippo Dockyard Dolphins were no more, I quit the lower division. No, anyway. Yeah, like you say, I think there are plenty of great games to go see there. And again, this is why we love the FA Cup so much, because a lot of these teams are very familiar. Daejeon Korail, for example, is another team that plays in a stadium that looks like the World Cup stadium because they've got that same like white to blue fade on the seats, but they play at a different stadium in Daejeon. I really do want to make it down for one of those. And I still haven't been to a Busan Transportation game in Busan. So I think I have to pick them and say K3 just for that, because I haven't been there yet. And I've just heard so much about this team, and I haven't won their games.
Should go down for the derby with Gimhae. The supporters group there, I think I've said on the podcast before, is the soju drinkers, and they make a lot of noise. It's fantastic. I also went to Daejeon Korail a bit last season at the Hanbat Stadium, and yeah, that's a good day out as well.
Yeah, just make sure you take a Magunghwa down there, because that's the way to travel.
From Seoul, that would be a fair effort. What is it, 5.5 hours?
That's it. Yeah, that's it. And then the subway ride once you get into Busan. Anyway, let's move on. A question from Michael Boroff. He's asking one for me here. He said, with Asnawi now getting minutes, where do you think the next ASEAN player in K-League will come from? And if you want to make a prediction, who? Win Konghai to FC Seoul. No, I wish. That's the wish list. But no, I do think it's great to see Asnawi getting minutes in K2. And this is where I've wanted to see this roster rule be taken advantage of, because I think once it's proven in K-League 2, I think we'll see more players come to K-League 2. I think this summer window, we might see more Indonesian players specifically come to K-League 2 because of that connection with Shin Tae-young. Seeing Asnawi succeed here, hopefully succeed. He looks the part so far. Let's see how he continues to go. But I think we could start to see some more of that movement, especially because of the issues with the Indonesian league and getting up and running and restrictions, everything else. K-League's going. It's a strong league. It's a known league. So I think we could see more Indonesian players. Obviously, I would love to see Vietnamese players here. I think that connection is an obvious one, with Park Hang-seo being the national team manager there. So I think if we're going to see Shin Tae-young bringing some of his players and kind of encouraging them to come to Korea, I would love to see that with the Vietnamese players as well. But I think a lot of the players in V-League are pretty set where they are. I think not many of them leave, so I don't think we'll see too many Vietnamese players come over, but maybe some of the countries that we don't see going to Japan right now. So Thailand, maybe not, but maybe we see some Malaysian players come over. Safawi Rashid is back with JDT right now. I think he could do wonders for a K-League 1 club. So a prediction, no, more of a wish list. Win Konghai, Safawi Rashid, get them over here, get them in K-League kits. Delightful. But that's my thing. Do you guys have anybody on your radar? You guys been studying AFC Cup or anything like that, getting ready for this?
No, mate, but it would help with our kit giveaways. We'd race towards 6,000 then if we got
right
some Vietnamese players in, could target.
Well, for Facebook anyway. Twitter, that's not a thing in Vietnam. Anyway, let's move on to Daejeon Hana Citizen. Oh, no, not Hana. They're just Daejeon Citizen Brazil. Sorry. On Twitter came in and asked, which team is looking better for a surprise spot in the K2 playoffs? Asan or Ansan? And then Todd Wild also piped in and said, I'd like to throw Anyang into the mix. They were well drilled on Sunday. All the A's. So, yes, the 3 A teams, as we call them sometimes, that were fighting for the spoon last year, all 3 do look like they could make the playoffs. Michael, do you want to put your neck out and say that there's one that will?
I don't know about playoffs, because personally I think all 3 might fall off, to be honest. But I'm only saying that because I want Elan still to be in the playoff position come October. But no, I will say I quite liked the looks of Ansan so far this year. Mm-hmm. drew with Busan. They lost very narrowly against Jeonnam. They lost very narrowly against Gyeongnam. They drew against Gimcheon as well. They've had a tough start to this season, and it has been late winners in more than one game, which is lost in the game. Unfortunately, the Gyeongnam game, the Jeonnam game, they've just been a bit more unlucky than actually poor quality or not playoff contention. So if they start to click, I think they're going to play really well this season and have a better season than people would presume.
Yeah. Pete,
Yeah, Asan have a lot going off the pitch, don't they? And for me, if I had to choose one of those three, it would be FC Anyang. My only worry would be the teams below them, because we're only 6 rounds in, and you wouldn't think Gyeongnam are going to continue down in 10th. They're going to come strong with the players they have, like Willian, etc., Yoon Jae. So the only worry is that quality beneath them.
Yeah, I mean, Anyang, I think Anyang is K2's Gangwon. Anyang is going to Anyang. They're gonna look great one week, and they're gonna score a bunch of goals, and then the next week they'll go out and lose 2-0. I think that team's going to continue to struggle with consistency. I'll make the trifecta here. I think Ansan Greeners could do it. They also need to find their own consistency, but look, you win 3 or 4 games in a row in K2, and you're right into that playoff picture. So, yeah, any of them, all of them, not all of them, please, not all of them, because then that means that Michael and I are going to be very sad. Anyway, again.
Yeah,
K2 is a party, but every now and again you want to go to a different party. So let's move on. Let's move on to K1. Let's move on to a different party. Let's get a question from Osri Furman. He's got 2. Thank you for limiting it to 2 this week, Osri. The first one is, Daegu has struggled a lot so far, and they're now 11th. What do you think the reason is for all of that? Pete, you watch this team quite a bit.
Yeah, I think Cezinha is just begging for someone to play off, and he's obviously injured at the minute, but it seems like he might be back this weekend, if not the one after. And injuries has been a big part for Daegu this season. Hwang Sun-min, Edgar, Tsubasa. It seems like long-term injuries, and Cezinha can't do it all.
Very, very odd choice to get rid of Daeon. I mean, I know he's
perfect to have. They need a focal point, and it would have been perfect to have him. They've got Gidong up front and Serginho, the new Brazilian, but he's not scored yet. And they just, Daeon would have been a perfect bit of experience, someone to play off for Cezinha.
Yeah, and losing Kim Dae-won as well, who's playing really well for Gangwon right now. I mean, I think, to me, for Daegu, they just lost too much and didn't do enough to replace it. And that's starting to show through. So, all right, let's move on to the second question here. What does Jeju need to turn those draws into wins? Michael, this is a team you watched quite a bit last year. They're built pretty similarly this year. What do you think Jeju needs to do to start getting some wins?
Well, to be honest, they need to score goals, don't they? Unfortunately, you don't win games, you don't score goals. I think they've been having a good season. Now, I know they've got 6 draws, but, they've just been promoted. So they just maybe need a little bit more confidence up front to actually take more chances in the game. I think some of the draws that they were like Jeonbuk as well. They got 1-1 it was on the island, I think. I think they've been having a good start to the season. So I just think having a bit more confidence. Okay, you are a K-League 1 team now. Keep playing like a K-League 1 team. And then maybe they can turn them draws into wins. I think this season you're looking at Suwon, and you might be looking at Daegu as the 2 teams that are going to be struggling the most this season, unless Daegu can really turn it on. I think Jeju are fine. I think Jeju just need to score some more goals, but it's not the end of the world for them, I think.
Yeah, and like you say, I think they've faced the toughest teams in the league so far, and they did well. They drew with Jeonbuk. They did well against Ulsan. They got a 0-0 against Ulsan, which is almost like a win in a lot of ways this early in the season. Yeah, I think they'll be fine. Jimin Kyu, he'll come good. All right, let's end this week with a question from one Scott Whitelock, and it's a question for Peter. And he's asking, which K-League team would give the biggest pasting to Sheffield Wednesday?
Oh, I would love to see it. A tour of Sheffield Wednesday, just getting thrashings around the country. Obviously, the answer is all 22 of them. But yeah, I'd love to
That's
nip
what
down
Lee
to see.
Jung Hyup just needs to go against Wednesday, and he'll find his form for Gyeongnam. That's what's missing.
Oh mate, it could reignite some careers if Sheffield Wednesday came on a pre-season tour. Yeah, get some confidence in the veins, and you'd be flying.
All right. Well, actually, I'll throw in one here that there are rumors of Man United being interested in getting Central Coast Mariners and kind of creating something very similar to what Man City have of the City Football Group. So, Michael, I don't know if you've seen this. Just your 2 cents on that of United being interested in doing this, and like, would you want to see them come here and do this here?
I read it today, and I don't like the idea of it, unfortunately. I don't like the idea of Manchester City doing it. I don't like the idea of Manchester United doing it. I really don't like the idea of a club owning another club. I think you should be your own identity, and it's your own team. I really don't like the idea of it, unfortunately. So it's like, you know, I might be a bit controversial. Many Reds around the world might be going, what are you talking about? We're just trying to expand like Manchester City are. But I don't like the idea of it, unfortunately. So especially not in the K-League.
You don't want Seoul United? You don't want to switch to red?
Never.
I mean,
I think we had to talk a few years ago, didn't we, with Man City? I bought Elan, you'd be successful. I went, but you know, blood's thicker than water. I should not be saying that either, Derby.
Yeah, I'll leave that one there. But yeah, interesting development there. So curious what our listeners down in Australia think of that. And I do see Clint's in the comments here saying it would be Sydney United. The rumors are that they do want to get them and move them to Sydney, which, come on, we don't need you don't need a 4th team in Sydney, especially Central Coast Mariners right now are top of the A-League table and are a very entertaining team doing it. Props to their social media team as well, because they make it fun. So
I think that's the thing. If it happened in K-League, you just know it would happen in Seoul, where there's so much good football around Korea, in other cities as well. But you just know if a team like Man United came to Korea, they'd take over a Seoul one, or God forbid, move another team to Seoul. And we've had enough of that drama in the past in K-League. So
yeah, we don't need another Anyang Cheetahs situation. We don't need any of that. Which, if you're listening, you don't know what that is, go ahead and look it up on KLeagueUnited.com. That's true, it is. All right, well, that is it for the mailbag this week. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or reactions, you can get those in on social media at K-League United, or you can email us info@KLeagueUnited.com. If you'd like to be more involved with the show and all of the goings-on at K-League United in general, if you want to know what Survivor is that we keep talking about throughout the podcast, you can do all that over on Patreon. Tiers start as low as $1, which will get you into Survivor. I think we'll give you a life. If you sign up and you say you want in, I think we'll give you a life, because why not? It's fun. And then the more interesting things start at $3 and $5. We've got Saturdays and a bunch of other things coming up soon. We will have some changes coming on the Patreon front soon, but I did just get a reminder from the producer, Pete, saying that we have this Anyang Ansan Greeners kit that we didn't give away yet. But the thing is, Pete, and thank you for reminding me and making sure that I say this, I didn't write down all of the names of the people that we're going to draw from. And I remembered that halfway through the show. So what we will do is show the kit again. It is real. We do have it. If you're watching the live stream, it exists. It does have the number 10 on the back. Everybody's favorite player, Eon San.
Beautiful.
We'll have I'll put the winner for that up on social very soon, but you can also get involved with the kit contest if you leave us a podcast review wherever you download your podcasts. We do have that yellow one. That one's going to be claimed by then, but there is a Bucheon 1995 kit, a brand new one from this season that's up for grabs if you leave a review there. But that is about it for this week. So for Michael Redmond and Pete Hampshire, I'm Ryan Walters. Thanks so much for watching.
정조선 공격 복격기 김신영